Magazine called her one of the greatest soul singers of her generation. And today on Black Music Archive, Margie Joseph is here to share her story.
Could we just get a little bit of background information about, your upbringing and how you discovered that you had a voice?
I said it was all till Jesus.
I've loved music all of my life. I guess from a toddler, because I was about 3 years old when I was on a school program. I sung this song, "How Much Is That Doggy in the Window?" I must have really had more than a toddler talent, because from there, it just snowballed. I was inspired by many: Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, Brooke Benton. My father insisted that I didn't listen to one genre. He wanted me to cover all the bases. It was no such thing for me as voice lessons. It was like the gift had just been given to me innately by God.
The next tune I would like to do for you is one you might remember. I gave it away.
Her talent was undeniable, and it was at the age of 18, with the help of some college friends, she would get her first major breakthrough.
This is the funniest story. I was attending Dillard University in New Orleans, and some classmates were going to Lou Rawls' concert, and they met disc jockey who brings shows to New Orleans at the Municipal Auditorium at that time. And they told him, "It's a girl on campus you've got to hear. Her name is Margie Joseph. She can sing." They came back that night and they started saying, "You're going to get a call from a Larry McKinley." And he did call, and he asked for an audition. I wasn't nervous. I just said, "Okay, what y'all want to hear?" So I sat down to the piano, and it was a song I used to love to play and sing, and it was "Every Little Bit Hurts." So I played that, and then I could see them all huddling and shoo-shooing, and so I said, "Well, let me take it up a notch, because maybe I'm not doing good enough or well enough." So I really started doing my thing from what I had learned from the pros, So I left, and they called me, said they had some songs, and to meet them at Cosmo Studio. The first song I cut was "Why Does a Man Have to Lie?"
The success of the early singles would lead to Joseph signing a deal with Stax Vault Records, the home of soul music giants such as Isaac Hayes and the Staple Singers.
Larry and his wife became managers. And Larry introduced me to Al Bell at Stax. And Al was very pleased, and Willie T wrote this song, "Never Can You Be More Than You Are to Me." And then Freddie Briggs, they were bringing in producers on the Margie Joseph Makes a New Impression album. That was my first album with Stax.
On the label, she would release her debut album, Margie Joseph Makes a New Impression, which featured a complete remake of the Supremes' hit, "Stop in the Name of Love." A 10-minute tour de force that features a now iconic opening monologue.
Who's Marilyn? I don't know who she is. You tell me who she is. Yeah, you were the guy that said we would be tight as 10 toes in a sock.
I decided to write a monologue. I had to be different. I just wasn't going to holler, stop. So I wrote the monologue. And if you listen to it, it's really, when I listen to it now, it's hilarious to me.
Stop in the Name of Love would send Makes a New Impression to the top 10 of the album charts, establishing Joseph as a new artist to watch. In spite of the record's success, she soon learned quickly about the not-so-glamorous side of the music business.
You know what? I was just too, I don't want to say I am an humble person, but I was kind of naive. It was just fun to me. I wasn't into the business of recording. I wasn't into, hey, give me some music, a song in the microphone, in a good band. And that, to me, may have been one of my weaknesses, because my naivety was just sing, girl, go in there and sing. And that's what I would do.
Joseph would release one more album on Stax Volt Records before making her transition to Atlantic Records.
You have seasons in your life. I've learned that. But I didn't know it at the time. But when the transition took place, I was moving on. And Jerry Wexler was the president of Atlantic, and it was like he wanted me, Aretha Martin, to produce me. And like I'm saying, that's the man that produced Aretha Franklin. And it was such a wonderful atmosphere. Any studio I go in, my energy seems to take it over. And I'm seeing that now. Milik, I didn't know this before. I'm talking like a wise woman right now, but I wasn't very wise. I just wanted to sing good music with good musicians.
Joseph's time at Atlantic Records would continue her streak of making critically acclaimed albums. But sharing the same producers as her label mate will inevitably draw comparisons between the two.
I adored her, and I felt caught up in between because I have the producer, I have the musicians, and some of the songs that I was given sounded like something that they had prepared for her. On the Atlantic albums, you may hear me interject some Aretha, but then you're going to find songs on those albums which will reveal the real Margie Joseph.
Did you and Aretha ever meet?
Of course. I had performed at the Apollo, and she was at Radio City Hall. I remember this very vividly, and I wanted to see her. And I bowed to her, and she said, "Girl, get up off your knees." She said, "I've been reading about you. I see where the New York Times that Monday in the entertainment section said, Southern Belle sets Apollo on fire." Hey, that's when I realized I'm all right, because the Queen has endorsed it.
It was at Atlantic that Joseph would cross paths with another soul music pioneer, Al Green, when her rendition of Let's Stay Together would become a hit in its own right.
during your Atlantic years, I know you did a lot of touring. Did you toured with Al Green?
Yes.
Did you ever duet with him on the Let's Stay Together song?
You wouldn't let me sing it.
Oh!
That's one song I could not do on our tour. And I understand that because that was his hit.
Yeah.
And the way I was going to attack it, I guess he said, no, you sing anything but that.
With songs such as Words, My Love, and Come Lay Some Lovin' On Me, Joseph had a strong run at Atlantic Records. In spite of her proven track record of releasing strong soul and R&B material, like many of her contemporaries, Joseph was impacted by the rise and popularity of disco.
And I didn't catch on to it fast enough. I really wasn't into it. And that's where the market was. See, that's why I say there are seasons. There. And I guess I was in my autumn, headed into my winter time. I don't know.
After her last Atlantic release, it would be 5 years before she'd release new music. But when she came back, her comeback was a knockout.
He's a knockout. Dressed to kill. He's a knockout.
So the way things happen in my life, I hope it happens again before I leave this great earth. It's like miracles. An ex-Atlantic promotion man stopped by. I call their names because I want them to know I'm grateful to them. Walter Moorhead. And he said, I have a friend in Houston that has a label and he wants to record you. I'm not really processing anything about the recording business anymore. And he called Harvey Lynch and Harvey said, can you fly to Houston? I flew into Houston and David Witherspoon, they were telling me, yeah, we got something for him. You be patient, just don't worry about it. And when they started playing that track, I went into a whole different body, a whole different mind. I knew it would bring me back.
Back on top of the charts with a new generation of fans, Joseph kept that hot streak going with her next release, Ready for the Night.
Ready for the Night was very good, but it was so much fun recording with the two of them, Winston Glass and Narda would bring some beautiful songs.
The album would become a top 10 best-selling record overseas. And after its release, Margie took another break from the industry.
I was good at taking breaks, lunch breaks, okay?
You took a break.
Snack breaks.
The next album was one of the best albums for me. I love this next album.
And then there's Stay with Stay.
Ichiban.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think John Abbott was too pleased with that album. We never finished it. It was released unfinished.
Wow.
I think John was looking for me to do bluesy. He wasn't there. So I was working with some young producers who were ahead of his time, I guess, because I could hear hits on that album. But the project was ended.
After the release of Stay, it would be nearly 20 years before she'd release new music.
When you're not living in the industry's marketable places, and you're not in that environment, you will get lost because every year a new artist is coming out. My dad said, get a degree. If anything happens, get a job. I did finish college. I went on to do, to start on my master's, and I did, I became an educator for a little while. Then I became a Head Start director. Then I became a community resources director for United Way. So I was having fun in the everyday 8 to 5. I wasn't hung up on whether I got back out there or not. I didn't have to have the record industry to make me happy. And I'm telling you the honest to God truth. Did I want to be a superstar? At one time, I did. But if it's meant to be, it'll be.
Don't let the sun go down on me.
The worst of the storm has now reached New Orleans.
I'm wondering how long these levees are going to hold.
This city absolutely devastated by Katrina.
Joseph was one of many who lost everything during the devastation of Hurricane Katrina. But the devastation was inspiration for Joseph to come back to music.
The break never hurt me. It just made me strong. In fact, that break took me back to my gospel roots.
Come on. We shall behold the Lamb of God, sitting on the throne.
It was time to do a gospel album. And Susan Tapper, my best friend to this day, we are like sisters. I mean, and I told her, I want to do a gospel album. And she said, well, let's do it. So we put it on our label called Sister Praise. And, it was after Hurricane Katrina. Had a little PTSD behind her. Katrina wasn't nice. And I had to get my family settled, and it was a lot going on. So I was trying to keep the Latter Rain project going, and Susan was a great support system for me. But I think we both just did what we could do as independents. And I think Latter Rain is a wonderful album. If you want to read your Bible, listen to Latter Rain. It'll take you there. That's where I ended, and that's where it stopped for now.
And deep inside, you know that you're on the right track. We're riding high. Oh, we're riding high.
Today, Joseph is still performing around the world for her fans and has a greater appreciation not just for the music, but for herself.
People would tell me, oh, you're great. You sound like this. You thank you. But now I listen closely to me. So one night around right before midnight, I looked up to my creator and I said, wow, I really could sing.